All right, I'm going to start a practice parabola here, and I'm going to have a couple different tools. I'm going to have a little piece of cardboard, or you can also use a cutting mat so that you don't just hit your table with your pokey tool. You can use an awl or a push pin to poke your holes. We're going to use some practice final draft paper, this little sample piece here, and then a graph paper. There is 4 squares for every inch, so this is every 1/4 inch apart. That we are going to be using as a guide to sew. And I'm just going to set this graph paper down on my square, and I'm going to poke about 10 holes. So you can start just a couple down. You don't want to start on your edge, but maybe 2 down. And I'm just going to poke through the intersection of lines. And I'm going to go down 10. So 1, 2. I'm going to have 10 holes. I'm going to skip this intersection right here. You may end up needing it for something else, but I'm going to skip this one because you're not going to sew into this line. So I'm going to come over here. So skip, over, and I'm going to count 10 more. So 10 down, I have my 0 here, and then 10 over, and you have your pre-punched holes for practicing. So now to sew, I'm going to need about a 3-foot long string. With the style that I'm going to do, I'm going to use less string than it could be. And I need a knot. So down here about 1 inch from one of the edges, I'm going to loop it and pull that little tail through once and twice. I want to make it an extra big knot, so I can even go up to 3 times. Pull that tail through that loop, and I'm just going to gather that whole bit of knot about 1 inch from the edge. The other end, I need to thread into the eye of the needle. I'm going to pull that tail of the string down about, I don't know, like 8 inches or so, about 1 foot. That is going to adjust. Not going to tie the string on. As I sew, I need to adjust that tail up shorter, but I can start about 8 inches to 1 foot, and then my other 2 feet of string is down here with my tail at the end. And then I'm going to start to sew. So we'll keep our angle here on the left side, and we always want to hide our knot at the back. So I'm going to start up here at this top hole, going through the back of the paper. You can tell it's the back because of the little puncture holes here. And I'm going to sew through the opening and bring the knot all the way up to the opening here. I need to be able to see that back here. And then I'm going to sew down to the first one here. So it's always the furthest and the closest. So I'm going to sew into hole 1 down here. And then if you want to use a lot of string, you'd go back up to 9 and go to 2, but we're going to go like 9 to 2, but we're going to make it use less string. So I'm going to go 10 to 1, and I'm going to go 2 to 9. So I'm going to go over here. And then I use a lot less string than putting everything on the back. And I'm going to come all the way up to the next hole down below here. Make sure your string is a little like taut. You don't want your paper to bend it so tight. Like I don't need this crimping up. But you want to make sure, always check the back because here I now have my first little knot formed. Okay, so I will pull that through. Check here. So now I'm up here at the top. I'm going to go down and across to here. So whenever I come through and I'm on the back, I'm just going to go to the hole next to it. So instead of coming up to the next side, if I'm on the back side of my work, I'm going to poke through to the next hole. And then to make my parabola, I'm going to come up to the hole next to the last one that I did. So now I'm here on the back. I'm going to go to the next hole. And then across to the other axis. On the back, I go to the next hole. And then across to the other axis. Now I can see my tail is about doubled up right here, so that's where I need to start to shorten it. I don't want to ever be sewing with 2 strings. It needs to be a single line, so I just make that tail now only about 5 inches. Now I've adjusted my tail again so I don't double up my string. And that is my last hole to sew. So I see my curve, every hole is filled in, all 1 through 10, the furthest to the closest. I now need to put another hole in the back. Oh, I have a little thing here, but that's okay, I'll leave that there. And so I need to put another knot down here at the end. So I'm going to make another loop. You can do it with or without your needle. Make a loop, pull the needle through once. I'm gonna take this off actually. Pull it through once, pull it through twice. And then I'm going to begin to kind of guide that knot down. So if it's up a little higher, I just kind of work its way down to the paper. And I'm going to hold my finger flat here and pull. If I want to put a second knot, I can just make a loop. I get it underneath the knot, between the knot and the paper. And I came undone. And then I just trim off this excess last inch, make sure everything is knotted into place. Eventually we'll probably tape these tails back so they're not in the way. And there's my practice parabola.